Alright guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm bringing to you the 2023/2022 Trek Emonda SL5. We're going to look at the specs/features. We're going to check out the weight. We're going to find out how it rides. And lastly, we're going to ask the question, should you buy this bike? So let's hop right into it. Starting with the frame, this is a carbon fiber frame. It's offered in Trek's 500 OCLV carbon series, which is their lowest end carbon. The higher end specs of this bike ship with a 800 series OCLV carbon, which is the highest end version. And then you can buy a frame set of the Emonda in a mid-range, the 700 OCLV series carbon. But this one is the 500 series, so it's the lowest end, but it's still a pretty good carbon. The paint job, I think, on this bike is absolutely gorgeous. I think Trek has the best paint jobs in the industry, personally. We have on the top here this light blue, and then it fades into this like deep metallic navy blue, which in the sunlight really kind of glistens and sparkles. It's really, really beautiful. And the frame in and of itself is also very clean, because one thing Trek does, which I really like, is they are starting to offer this more and more on pretty much all of their bikes nowadays, except for the super low end ones. But they have the integrated cockpit, which means the cabling is routed through the tubing, and it's not routed through the stem, which believe me is good for maintenance. They're mounted directly underneath the stems, and it just offers a really clean look, saves the extra bit of watts, and it makes the bike just a little bit that much more aero. Speaking of aero, their current Emonda series for 2022/2023 have a little bit more of an aero cue to them, taken from the Madone series. And so what that means is that the tubing at the very front, I should say, is kind of narrow, and then the head tube is a little bit deeper as well. So previous Emonda generations were not really in the aero category. This one is certainly not an aero bike, but it has some aero cues. It's a really, really awesome looking bike. The fit of this bike is the Trek H1.5. In previous years, they used to offer two fits. They had their H1, which was their super aero, aggressive, racy kind of fit, and then they had their H2, which was a more relaxed endurance, long distance kind of fit. This bike, the Emonda series, is attempting to split the difference there with their H1.5 fit. So what that means is it's going to be kind of a cross between super aggressive and comfortable. So it's not going to be super extreme in either of those two, but it's trying to blend both categories into one. And I will say this bike is a extremely, extremely comfortable bike, even for the aero position that it does kind of slant towards. I found it to be extremely comfortable, but more on that in a minute. Now on the frame too, we have the word Emonda written here on the top. It's written really nicely. It's just this like beautiful silver, and it's kind of beveled too, so you can run your finger over it and it kind of sticks out. It's a little bit 3D. I think it looks really beautiful, and when riding this bike, even just looking down at the bike while on the ride, I think it's just a nice view to look at. If we drop down here to the drivetrain now, we are running a Shimano 105 mechanical drivetrain throughout. In the front here, we have a 5034 compact chainring, and then in the back we have a 11-30 cassette, 11 speed. So it's a perfect range for pretty much, you know, most road riding conditions. The brakes are going to also be Shimano 105, so the rotors, the calipers, and even the brifter levers up here are also going to be Shimano 105. I think it's a perfectly good group set. Of course, you could go to Ultegra or Dura Ace, but I think the 105 is a perfectly capable group set. I don't see a reason to go anything beyond that. We also have a spot for a dual trap S sensor, so you can put that in the frame right here. You take this little cap off and put the sensor in there. That's going to measure things like speed and cadence. I personally never use it. I just use my Garmin, but the idea is you'd put it here and it would sit in the chainstay, so it would be out of the way, be a little more aero, and be kind of more inside the bike than something you put on top of the bike. So up at the top of the bike then, the handlebars are the Trek Bontrager VRC aluminum handlebars. If you go with higher specs of this bike, you do get the same handlebar but in carbon fiber. So there is a bit of a weight penalty here, but it's a perfectly good handlebar. And then the stem is a Bontrager Blender aluminum stem. Again, higher spec versions of this bike are offered in a carbon fiber version of that stem. So again, a little bit of a weight penalty here, but overall it's a perfectly good, perfectly fine functioning combination. If we go over to the seat post now, at the top we are running a Bontrager P3 Verse saddle. I think this is a perfectly good saddle. I found it to be extremely comfortable. It's not the highest end saddle, it's pretty mid-range, but I say don't fix what's not broken. Of course, saddle choice is all personal, but for me, I found this saddle to be very comfortable. Now, one thing that's interesting too with the Trek Emonda, which is unique to the Trek Emonda, is that instead of running a seat post, we're running a seat cap. And so what that means is instead of putting the seat post inside the frame and clamping the frame onto the seat post, we do it the opposite. We take the seat cap and we actually clamp that on top of the frame itself. And the idea there is that it adds a little bit of extra comfort. I don't really see a difference either way between running a seat cap or a seat post, but Trek claims this has extra comfort, so I take them at their word. No problems there. I found it to be extremely comfortable and perfectly well functioning. Now that we're down here, let's take a quick look at the wheels. Now the wheels are interesting to me. These are the Trek Bontrager Paradigm SL wheels. Now I actually could not find any information on these wheels. They're not sold on Trek's website as standalone wheels, which is pretty suspicious to me. I did a lot of research and it seems that a lot of people were finding the same thing. Nobody really saw any information on these wheels. My guess is that they're probably some cheap wheels that Trek makes specifically for their lower end carbon fiber bikes. So I assume they're aluminum. Again, no information on them, but I did see one guy online who took the front wheel off, weighed it, and it came in at 1,077 grams. So my guess is that this is aluminum. Not the best wheels, but they get the job done, I guess. For the tires, we're running the Bontrager R1 tires. These are sold stock at 28 millimeter. Each one of those tires weighs 360 grams according to the Trek's website. So if you did want to upgrade the bike, a quick and easy upgrade would be to throw some, for example, Conti GP 5000s on there. You save a couple 100 grams right off the bat, and they're going to be more, they're going to be faster, less rolling resistance. But these tires are 28 mil, so they're really comfortable. They're very durable tires, so they get the job done. Okay, so now let's hop in the garage and check out what the bike weighs, and we'll come right back. All right, guys, Trek Emonda SL5 comes in at 21.08 pounds. Now, granted, I do have some fairly heavy flat pedals on there. If you take those off and put lighter road pedals, you probably get that below 21 pounds. Of course, there are some quick and easy ways you could upgrade this bike to reduce that weight pretty dramatically. You could, as I said, put lighter pedals on there, take out those tires. Each one weighs 360 grams, put some Conti GP 5000s on there with lightweight inner tubes, replace that seat, put a lighter seat. You could even take out the stem and put a carbon fiber version of that same exact stem, and you could get this down probably at least a pound, pound and a half. So there you have it. Okay guys, so with the weight in mind and the features in mind, well, who is this bike for? Well, Trek markets this bike toward the lightweight climbing category. Now, in my opinion, there's absolutely nothing lightweight about this bike. 21 pounds is a very heavy bike. We just have to be honest. And even for a aero bike, which are supposed to be among the heaviest type of bikes, 21 pounds is still heavy. And this is supposed to be a lightweight climbing bike. In my opinion, lightweight climbing bikes really, they should be like maximum 18.5 pounds or so. That's just my opinion. Don't flame me in the comments. I'm just trying to keep it real with you guys. I think that this bike is extremely heavy for the category it's being sold in, and therefore I just don't think it's hitting that mark. Which brings me into the next point. Well, then how does the bike ride? Do we get any kind of compensation in the ride quality of the bike? Well, there's two things that stuck out to me when riding this bike, and I rode it for several miles now. The first thing, which I mentioned earlier, I will give credit where credit is due. The bike is extremely comfortable. I tried riding it with my regular biking jersey with the padded bib shorts. I also rode it just like this with basic t-shirt, shorts, no gloves, no padding, nothing, just as if I am walking out the door and hopping on a bike. And in both circumstances, the bike was extremely comfortable. Again, that H.1 fit I thought was awesome. It's a very, very comfortable bike, and I personally prefer this fit over the Domani, which in my opinion, the Domani is a little bit too upright, so you feel like maybe you're going a little bit too slow. That's just my opinion. That's not like applying to everybody, just for me personally. I prefer a little bit more of an aggressive, racy geometry, but I still want to be comfortable. And I think the geometry of this bike is perfect for that type of riding, where you want to feel a bit racy, but you also want to be comfortable. It's not going to be an out and out aero race bike where you're really just stretched and you know, super aggressive, but it's not going to be that like super upright comfort type position either. They really did a good job with their geometry on this. I feel like it's very comfortable, but you also feel aggressive. It's perfect in my opinion. But the downside to this bike in general, I was really surprised, you guys, to find out just how sluggish and slow this bike really felt. And believe me, I am really surprised to say that, because I thought this bike was going to be like super snappy and quick and spunky, but it simply wasn't. I mean, there's just no beating around the bush, and especially going up hills. I mean, it was just brutal. I don't know what is going on, but this, I don't know how Trek markets this as a hill climbing bike. This is probably one of the worst bikes I've ever ridden for hill climbing. And I'm not trying to shit all over Trek. Believe me, I love Trek as a company. I think they're a very futuristic, forward-thinking company. I think they do a lot for the community. I absolutely love Trek. I want them to be as successful as possible, but I have to keep it real. And I don't know what's up, but this bike just felt so sluggish, especially up climbs. And you guys, I've ridden like every kind of bike. I've ridden Canyon, I've ridden Cervelo, I've ridden Colnago, I've ridden Walmart bikes. I mean, I've ridden everything. And I know the market, I know what's out there. And for $3,300, which this bike MSRP's for that price, if you want a lightweight hill climbing bike, your best bet is to go with a bike like the Canyon Ultimate CFSL 8. That bike sells for $2,900 and it's 7.02 kilograms, which is like less than 17 pounds. And it's, I mean, it's got the aero handlebars, carbon fiber handlebars. The frame is fully carbon fiber. It's an extremely fast bike, and it's a cheaper bike that sits in the same category as this Trek Emonda SL5, but it's much faster. And in fact, the fastest I've ever gone on any bike has been on that Canyon Ultimate CFSL 8. Uphill, downhill, on flats, anything. So I'm trying to keep it real. Don't flame me in the comments. I think this is a great bike for comfort, and I'm sure some people would ride this bike and would outrun me on a super fast aero bike. There's probably people who could ride this bike and outrun me in a car. I mean, there's fit, and what I mean by that is fitness is number one, right? Like, fitness is priority, fitness is key. The fastest bike in the world will be slow with a slow rider. You are the engine. I'm just telling you guys my experience. Don't flame me in the comments. It's just my opinion. Go test drive this bike for yourself. Go up a hill, see what you think. Compare that to other bikes in the category. But I think for $3,300, the place in the market this bike sits in, the lightweight hill climbing category, I don't think it's hitting the mark there. So then the question is, should you buy this bike? Well, I think for the price, $3,300, that's a lot of money. And I think, again, as I said, the Canyon Ultimate CFSL 8 is a better buy for that price range, for that category of riding. But this bike is definitely way more comfortable than the Canyon. The Canyon is more aggressive. So if you're looking for a bike that's super comfortable, that you feel a bit aero and a bit racy in, that you want to use on maybe some trails, even like gravel riding, bumpy roads, that kind of thing, then I think it's a good bike. If comfort's your priority, and those are the kind of terrains you're riding on, and you're not on a very hilly area, then I think it's a good bike. It's a very comfortable bike. But if you are going up hills and racing up hills and hill climbing is your thing, is your vibe, my personal opinion is I think you should skip it. I think this bike is going to let you down. I just don't think you're going to be happy with it. That's my opinion. I'm sure some people would disagree. Totally fine. In the comments, let me know if you disagree. But that's my opinion, having ridden several bikes. For the price, I don't think this is hitting the mark there. If this sold for closer to $2,000, then I'd say, okay, maybe you can put up with the lack in hill climb performance. But for 3,300 bucks, I think your money goes farther elsewhere. Again, I love Trek, so don't take this the wrong way. I love Trek bikes, but I think this bike in particular is not fit in the category it's marketed toward. Of course, if your budget is lower than this and you don't want to spend $2,900 on the Canyon or $3,300 on this, you could go for the $2,200 Emonda AL5, which is a very similar bike with similar components, the same components actually, but it's aluminum and not carbon fiber. And it's actually a little bit lighter, believe it or not. They claim it's a bit under 20 pounds, so like 19.9 pounds, which is a good deal lighter than this, and it's aluminum, which is kind of interesting. Now, even though this is heavier, a carbon fiber is gonna typically offer a more comfortable ride. Aluminum is gonna be stiffer, it's gonna be more harsh, it's not gonna be as compliant. You're gonna probably find more personality in a carbon fiber bike than you would an aluminum bike. An aluminum bike is probably going to feel more like it's from a factory, whereas a carbon fiber bike is going to feel more like it's handmade. But the AL5 is maybe worth looking at too if you want to spend less money but get a sub 20-pound bike. So that's it, you guys. That's my review of the Trek Emonda SL5. Short and sweet. Great bike for comfort. Not a good bike for hill climbing, in my opinion. Let me know what you guys think. If you like the video, drop a like. It helps me out and lets me know if you guys like what I'm doing. Go ahead and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. I've got several review videos coming out soon. So until next time, thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.